You are tuned to Anywhere the Needle Drops, and I am sitting in my car. That's right, folks. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Justin Flegel. If you are new to the episodes, new to the show, I should say, and maybe this guest will be bringing you here for the first time, so welcome. So what we do here is I talk to musicians and artists in the local Michiana area, the larger Midwestern region, and sometimes even, on the national scale. And today I'm hanging out with Rolfe Feddersen and, of course, Terri Ann. We hung out in the Red Chuck studio for a great conversation. Rolfe Feddersen from the likes of LOUDMOUTH, now he and Terri Ann do their work. That's how I know him, actually. They came to Niles, they come fairly frequently, and so just over the last couple of years of watching them perform, just getting to know them, and so it's finally time to have them on the show and talk about their music, talk about Robert's career, kind of doing the big music world thing after getting props from the likes of Metallica and signing with a record label and doing that whole thing, and just that whole journey from there to where he and Terri Ann are now, and still making great music, still having a good old time, and we have a fun conversation. So, I'm in my car. So I am staring out at a bay connected to Lake Superior, I believe. I think this might be Green Bay, the Green Bay of myth and tale. I'm sitting here at a boat launch. I don't think I'm blocking any boats from launching. It's all frozen, so I think we're safe. But I was, driving along, listening to a podcast, and realized, I need to do an intro for Paul. So here I am in my car, looking out at this beautiful bay, and recording this for you. I apologize for the sound quality. I don't need to apologize to you. You probably can't tell. I apologize to Paul. Hi, Paul. Paul, who does the sound, who will be cleaning up however this sounds from me recording it in the car. So apologies to Paul. The rest of you, I think you're probably okay. So, I'm in my car. I'm coming home from Thundersnow. Thundersnow is this amazing event that I've been going to for, this will be my 10th year going to it. Long time ago on this very show, I had South Bend band The Rutabaga, and one of my all-time favorites, the Oh Brother album, is legitimately on my Desert Island list. Turn on the Summer, one of my favorite songs of all time. I just listened to it. In fact, it's kind of a tradition on this trip on my way home to always listen to that song as I make my journey back to reality, to real life, looking out on the bay, listening to The Rutabaga. And so I'm here for Thundersnow. Thundersnow is this event that when I had The Rutabaga on the show back in the day, they kind of mentioned in passing they were prepping for this journey to the north for this cool event. And if you're not from the area, they mentioned they were heading to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it was winter at the time. And I remember very distinctly pausing and saying, wait a second, you go to the Upper Peninsula in February on purpose? I need to understand this. And so they explained it to me. They explained this event they go to. They explained this group, the PRF group, which I'm not going to go into the origins of all that here. But it's this, wonderful, weird, beautiful community of music nerds, and just some of the greatest humans I've ever met in my life. And eternally thankful that they've welcomed me, a non-musician, but a huge music fan, and also just a fan of good humans, into their world. They treat me like family now. They are family now, and it's awesome. So we come up here every year in the winter and take over a hotel, and they play a bunch of music, and those of us who don't play music, or those of us who aren't playing at that moment, listen, and it's just a great time. It's a wonderful experience. These are wonderful people. It's soul-filling, and man, do we need that right now? You know, there's darkness out in the world, and something like this just goes to show that it's worth the fight, worth it to keep on going, and that you're not alone in this. And so it's also fitting that I'm doing this intro on the road home from Thunder Snow, and the guest is Robert Rolfe Feddersen, because we get into quite a bit, actually, his friendship with one Steve Albini. And Steve Albini is largely, the reason why this Thunder Snow event and this PRF group exists. They basically originated on the message boards of Steve Albini's website for his studio, Electrical Audio. So it's all coming full circle. It's all fitting. I'm sitting here basking in the glory of Thunder Snow, basking in the beauty of this bay that's frozen and the sun's shining off of it, and feeling a little bit better about life, about the world, and through the joy of music, which is what Robert and I talk about. So Robert and Terri Ann and we have a fun conversation. We talk all about music. We get way into Steve Albini and just kind of the communal thing that comes from art and music. So let's get to that, shall we? We've got a song for you to check out, and the interview is after that. So enjoy, and take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Remember that, it's tough out there, but we take care of each other. We keep on fighting the good fight, and, fuck fascism, right? We're gonna fight this thing. So keep on going, folks. Don't quit. Here's to life.
I like the record player. It plays my favorite songs. I like them Beatles and I like them Rolling Stones. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like the more guitars. I like to play them loud. Jimi Hendrix, it puts me on a cloud. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. My favorite songs. I like them Beatles and I like them Rolling Stones. I like them more guitars. I like to play them loud. I like that Jimi Hendrix. It puts me on a cloud. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll. I like that rock and roll, yeah. I like that rock and roll.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So it's Terri Ann, right?
Yes.
Okay, and Rolfe Feddersen.
Rolfe Feddersen and Terri Ann.
Yeah. So we've been chatting about this for a little while, having you guys come on in for the show. I think we made this happen finally because we were chatting during Small Business Saturday when you guys came down and played for us. So.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. We played over at 2nd and Main.
Yeah.
And that was just a great time.
Yeah.
And the place was packed.
Yeah.
I mean, just awesome to see so many people here in Niles coming out and from abroad, but just, putting on Small Business Saturday and having it well attended. That was just awesome.
Yeah, they do such a fantastic job down there. We were just talking. There's some coffee from there in the gift bag here, and their coffee's great. The people are great. The events they do are great, and they're really bringing a lot of life to downtown. So another hat I wear, which is why I reached out to you for that, is I'm the chair of Niles Main Street, and so we've been working for years to get downtown, the energy up and keep businesses healthy and happy, and doing events like that. And Small Business Saturday was kind of one of those orphan events that didn't have a champion, and sort of fell into my lap when I was when I started volunteering, and I kind of made it my baby. And so it's so exciting to see how big it's gotten, at this point. So
that's incredible. I love to see that, and I love that you had a vision for it as well.
Yeah.
And just to keep, like the downtown Niles alive too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just great because, we travel a lot, and you go to, some towns and you see the downtowns, and it's like, man, like there's cool buildings, there's so much potential, but it takes somebody like you to see that potential and then make things happen. It's really a cool
it's
thing.
all about bringing community together, in this era we live in, where we're a lot of times not seeing each other physically, where it's all digital, and it's like downtowns are places where people can come together and gather and hang out. But you're not any strangers to downtown, because you guys have played a number of times down at the brewing company, Niles Brewing Company,
Niles
right?
Brewing Company, yep. Yeah, we love Niles Brewing Company. Brandon's had us out a number of times.
Yeah.
And the most recent, we got to play for our friend Thad Schmidt. He does Michiana beer reviews. It was his birthday.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And we got to rock his birthday bash, which was really fun.
That's
and,
awesome.
Just a fun space, great beers. I mean, just a great environment.
Yeah. It's kind of the local towny haunt, at least for the crew that I hang out with. So, I'm typically there, a couple times a week. Well, we don't have to talk about that. I hang out there sometimes.
Right, that's your place.
That's my place. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So how did you get connected to NBC? Because I think that's the first time I saw you in Niles was there, right?
Yeah.
So how'd that come about?
So I met Brandon down at Indie Winterfest.
Okay.
So we played the Winterfest, and we were talking to a couple different breweries. Terri Ann and I like to play craft breweries because we do all original music, and a lot of the breweries want original artists. It's like original craft beer, original music. It just seems to kind of go together. So I've kind of curated this since 2010, and I've just run into some different people. And I ran into Brandon, and I said, hey, do you ever have any live music? He actually did a beer collab with Studebaker Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it was called Batman, and it was a stout that Terri Ann loved.
So good.
Yeah.
And so we got to talk to Brandon about it because he collabed with Studebaker, and we're like, hey, do you ever have live music? And he said, well, once in a while we do. And I gave him my, card and said, I do all original music. And he knew that I played the Winterfest down in Indy, and he booked us.
Yeah.
So it was nice. And I believe you were there.
I think so, because I remember, I think I've seen you out at other breweries before that. Yeah. And then, when I saw you were here and now, it's like, oh, this is cool. We gotta go check this out. So yeah. And it's awesome having more and more live music in downtown Niles, as a huge music fan, as someone that's working in that world. And just having great musicians come to town and not having to drive too far to go see them is fantastic.
Right? Yeah. I mean, bring the artist to your neck of the woods.
Exactly.
You don't got to travel to wherever.
I know. I mean, as a kid, growing up, I grew up in Bridgman, and I was, especially as I moved into my post-high school years, I was driving to Chicago or Grand Rapids, and sometimes even Detroit, 3-4 times a week. And
for everything.
For everything, right? And, that was fun, but it sure is nice just to be able to hang out here or shoot down to South Bend and check out some live music nearby and just have as good of a time. So
yeah, that's great foresight as well. I mean, to think like, okay, I'll just bring the bands to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And you make it happen. That's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, we get a lot of thank yous in this work, and a lot of times I'm like, it's actually pretty selfish. I just want to have a cool place to hang out. So yeah. So that's cool. So you've been hanging out in Niles a bit. So what's been going on in your world lately besides,
Well, booking shows for 2025.
All right.
Which has been going pretty well so far. We work really hard. We've made bands in towns best of for shows.
Yeah.
For I think 4 years running.
Nice.
So we made the top 1,000 performers in the world on Bands in Town for 114 shows last year.
Okay,
so
that's awesome.
So those are a nice little feather in the cap again.
Yeah.
But we do have a new album coming out this summer.
Okay.
And it's called Radioville.
Okay.
And it's the last record that we were able to record with the late, great Steve Albini.
Yeah.
So that's going to come out June 20th. We're doing a record release party at Burnham Brewing.
Nice.
And we have a singer-songwriter from Chattanooga named Luke Hard who's going to come out and open the show. And then we're just going to rock and have some fun and put out the album and just get our last album with Steve out to the world.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're excited for it. It's a little melancholy, but we're excited for it as well. It's the last record we'll make with Steve, and it's his last full-length record to put out ever.
Oh, really?
So
It was? Okay.
there
wow.
were some projects in the works, and a lot of them didn't come to fruition. We were able to get 10 songs together to make a full album, because it has to be 10 songs for us to make it a full album.
That's your line.
So,
Yep. Okay. All right.
yeah. So we were able to muster up 10 songs, and I put the first song I ever recorded with Steve Albini on the album. It closes the album. It's a song called Winter Die Trying. It's a hard rock song, and I recorded it with Steve in 2006.
Okay.
Never put it out on vinyl or digitally or anything like that. It was a song I wrote for the Chicago White Sox that they had licensed and played at the games and that kind of thing.
Nice.
Steve recorded it. So I never put it out. I'm like, I'm going to make that the last song on the album, because it's the first song I ever recorded with Steve. So
That's beautiful. I love it.
So it's kind of we're looking forward to this and putting it out and just having a new album to tour on, and just something exciting for 2025 for us.
So it's weird to me how much Albini pops up into my world. Obviously growing up as a kid of the 90s, his music was constantly in my ears, but it's just extended so far beyond that, because meeting people like you, and then finding my way. I think we discussed it when you were in town last time, but finding my way to the PRF crew, and the people putting on Thunder Snow and the barbecue and all those events. That team exists, that crew exists because of the message boards on Steve Albini's website, on the Electrical Audio website. I mean, it was essentially, as I've been told, a bunch of music nerds on the internet, in the days of message boards, kind of sharing tips about, I did this cool thing to my pedal and now it makes this cool noise, and then someone saying someday, after they'd been friends online for so many years, hey, let's all get together and play some shows together. And now there's this wonderful community built around it, and all of that goes back to Steve. I mean,
his tentacles had a far reach.
And
the thing about Steve is, if you approached him, he was there. He was approachable. You can ask him things about building your studio. The lead singer from Guided by Voices wanted to build a studio. And Steve actually mapped out where to place the mics and where to put different, equipment for separation, for sound, and just mapped out a whole studio for this guy. And then when it came to pedals and stuff, I mean, if you ever go to Electrical Audio and you're a pedal person, you won't be able to choose. I mean, there's so many awesome, just vintage,
it's like a toy store,
and stuff they create. I mean, and it's all there for you to use too. So that inclusiveness, I think really permeated itself into the musical community at large, because Steve wanted everybody, to have access to, hey man, play your song, have your sound, do this to make your own sound and make it unique. And he really made music, I think, for a lot of people, ooh, I can do this too. And there's this guy who, wow, he gave me some great tips and great pointers to actually do what I want to achieve. I think that was always his goal. It's you can do this. Here's some of my knowledge. Let me pass this on to you. And you use it. And then you share it. So it just keeps it going. And
it does.
I love the inclusiveness of all that. And I love that you were affected by that, because we had that same shared experience. You
Yeah.
know, I've been affected by it. And it's amazing when you open your world up to share.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm not a musician. I'm just a music fan, but still finding myself affected by just the influence that Steve had through the music world. And I've got the electro audio hat right there just because that was from last year's barbecue, which took place just shortly after he had passed, and so there's a lot of love in that room for him and whatnot. But finding that community, I mean, that community is huge to me. I actually found that community through interviewing a band on this show that was plugged into that, and they kind of told me about it. I'm like, this sounds amazing, and they said, well, you're one of us now. You can join us. And I'm like, I don't play music. They're like, we don't care. You're one of us now.
Yeah.
And I have been that welcome in that world ever since. And like that, so that spirit that Steve brought is it's still there, and it's still growing, to this day. So
I think even bigger than it was before.
Yeah.
Because like when you lose an icon like that and somebody that affected so many people, I think that, the wanting to keep his memory alive and wanting to share things about him.
Yeah.
I think it just manifests itself in so many different ways when you remember somebody that's moved on.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat to see a larger community doing this still and being affected by him.
Yeah.
And he's no longer physically with us, but all of our shared experiences keep him alive.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
It is. So how was it that you came to meet Steve and work with Steve that first time?
So I had written a song called Win or Die Trying for the Chicago White Sox. And I pitched it to a DJ named Steve Dahl in Chicago. And Steve Dahl had season tickets for the Chicago White Sox. So I thought, this guy's pretty connected.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty big radio guy.
Yeah.
So if I send it to him, maybe he'll be able to do something with it. So I sent my version, and Steve Dahl liked it, but he said the production's terrible. Steve Albini was listening to the show, and he called in and said, hey, I'll record this.
Oh, nice.
And I'm a White Sox fan. So then you can pitch it to the Chicago White Sox. So I get a call from Steve Dahl, and he says, hey, Steve Albini listened to the show. He likes your song too, but he thinks he can record it better. So we set up a recording session that Steve Dahl paid for.
Yeah.
It was a 10-hour session. We did the song in 3 hours, finished. After we were done with the song in 3 hours, we had hot dogs. And Steve told me, Steve Albini said, you can record with me anytime.
Yeah.
So that
amazing.
was it. That was the impetus for it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. That was pretty neat.
So, did you come up in Chicago, like originally, or?
I grew up in Oak Lawn, Illinois.
Okay.
So Oak Lawn's just south of Chicago.
Yeah.
And I grew up there and found my high school band that, we formed. And basically our band stuck together, didn't go to college, tried to make it, ended up getting signed and working through the Chicago scene, and got to actually experience rock and roll through just perseverance.
Are we talking about LOUDMOUth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, LOUDMOUth.
Nice.
So
Nice. Okay.
we got to experience a lot of different things together, but it was a band that was a high school band.
Nice.
And we all had aspirations to do, other things. And we're like, let's just see if we can make this work, my drummer and I.
Yeah.
And we did. We played shows, we toured, we recorded, we did all kinds of different things that happened to us because of perseverance.
Nice.
So
okay.
it's pretty neat.
Terri Ann, what about you? Did you come up in Chicago then, or where'd you originate from?
I grew up in Crown Point, Indiana.
Okay. All right.
And I was always in summer bands with high schoolers when I was, basically junior high, coming into high school, and they would let me sing, on the Pat Benatar songs or, Pretender songs.
Yeah.
And I was working at a record store at the time in the summer of '89, and one of my friends came in and he said, hey, my cousin Bubba is looking for a singer. And I said, I'll sing. And it was in Illinois. And long story short, Robert was friends with one of the guys that I was in that band with. And that guy wanted me to see his friend's band, LOUDMOUTH, at practice. And I went, and that's how we met.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's through music.
That's awesome. All right. Music always brings people together,
Yeah,
you know?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So you guys, so you met through music, and then well, let's go back to Loudmouth for a little bit. Just tell me a little bit about that journey, going from a high school band, and then having the levels of success that you guys have, because you had some pretty big moments as that band.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. The band, we didn't quit. We started playing the clubs in Chicago. We got a following on the South Side. We're from the South Side of Chicago. South Side bands are mostly cover bands. And we had a hard time getting like venues to play. So we had our 2 venues on the South Side that we played, and we started getting a good following. Then we thought, you know what? The only way to get signed and do something is the Pumpkins got signed, and we saw them locally. Veruca Salt got signed.
One of my all-time favorites, Veruca Salt. Yep.
I mean, yeah. So, just cool bands were up there getting signed,
Yeah.
and you had to play lounge acts.
Yeah.
Which Sue Miller owned, Jeff Tweedy's wife.
Yeah.
So if you got in lounge acts, then maybe you could get into the double door.
Yeah.
So we got in lounge acts, got into the double door. If you fill the double door, then you can get in Metro.
Yeah.
So we did all those things, and we went up to lounge acts, and we go see bands, and we give Sue like our demo tapes, and wouldn't hear anything. And she did listen too. She didn't just like throw them in a corner. She would listen and nurture new talent. And finally we made a demo, and she listened to it, and she gave us a date playing with Monster Magnet.
Okay. All right.
So we got to open for those guys. I think you were there, Terry.
Probably.
You had to have been there.
Yeah.
So then we started playing some more shows at Lounge Acts, started building our following. Southside people would come up, got into Double Door, and lo and behold, we played Double Door, and we're done playing our set. Probably like a Thursday night or something like that. We had a good crowd. The owner comes up and says, "Hey, there's some people I want you to meet." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. Joe Shanahan, you own the Double Door." And so I go upstairs into the VIP area, which I'd never been before.
Yeah.
Didn't know it existed. And Metallica's there.
Oh, wow.
And they saw our whole set.
Yeah.
And they're holding CDs. They bought CDs and T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And they dug Loudmouth.
Yeah.
So they saw us and then had talked about us in a couple magazines, Guitar World magazine or Guitar Player. One of them asked James Hetfield, who he's listening to, and he said, "There's this band from Chicago called Loudmouth who like effing rule." Like that's what he said.
Yeah.
And I have the magazine. It's either Guitar Player or Guitar World.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like once he had said that, the floodgates started to open for us. So like labels were calling, and then management people, all that kind of good stuff. And so, we started getting some interest. So we started playing the Metro, and once we played the Metro, labels were coming out. So we were filling the Metro before we were signed and all that kind of stuff. So labels came out, and we ended up signing with Hollywood Records, and we ended up getting the same management as Stone Temple Pilots. My friend, I'm still friends with them today. My friend Michael Goldberg and Steve Stewart, they managed STP. They managed Body Count, a couple other bands, Palo Alto, some really good artists. So we signed with their management company, and they got us our record deal.
Yeah.
So we signed with Hollywood Records. And we got the first single for the soundtrack for Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
And then that really just took off from there. It hit like on the Billboard charts and all that kind of stuff. The song took off on radio, and we started touring with everybody. Like anybody who like charts, if there is a big act, they want other bands that are charting on radio. Mm-hmm. So then we were playing with Kid Rock. We were playing with Limp Bizkit. We toured with Godsmack. We toured with Megadeth. We toured with Black Label Society. We played with Creed. We played with just all kinds of different bands.
Yeah.
And got out there in like a much bigger way.
Yeah.
And all because, truly, the band, Loudmouth, and there's no ego involved. Loudmouth was a really solid band. We had a great drummer, and we practiced so hard, and we were really serious about our band. So through that and through an endorsement from Metallica, it really helped us like get our band started in a bigger way.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's you get to play with a lot of the big names of that time. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty surreal thing because it's nothing that I could imagine or something like, this is the path that's going to happen for you.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
Metallica sees your band, you're going to get like, you can't plan on that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the way it happened for Loudmouth. And, we could back it up too. The band was very rehearsed. We were very serious guys and we really like wanted to like go out there and murder crowds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we were young and like ready to
Got the energy,
just do it and all that.
Yeah,
So it was.
And you're watching this whole time. Like, what are you thinking during this? Like, what's going on through your mind?
Well, the first time I saw their band, when I went to that band practice, I knew that they were something really special because I grew up around music. And when I heard them for the first time, I had seen a lot of bands, like garage bands, friends bands, neighborhood bands. And I went and saw those guys and I'm like, this is something special. So I knew that the potential and the talent and the songs, I knew everything was there. And it just unfolded naturally because they put the work into it.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it takes.
Also, Terri, like Loudmouth played out with her band too. Terri had a band called Misunderstood, and we played with her band. And Terry's like my favorite singer on earth. So like we've been playing shows together since like 1990.
Yeah.
So I was a huge admirer of her. And when I heard Terry's songs, I had the Loudmouth guys like back her up in the studio. So we went in the studio with Terri and we played some shows with Terri and we recorded some songs. And actually the guitar player from Disturbed, Dan Donegan, he was in Loudmouth. Like the original version of Loudmouth was with Donegan. I grew up with Dan and he plays guitar on her songs too.
Nice.
Lead guitar stuff. And so our whole band got behind Terri as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which was neat because everyone that heard Terri sing were like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be in her band too.
Yeah.
And this is all in our early 20s and teens for these guys too. So we're really young.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned, and I'll ask you this too, but you mentioned, music was always kind of in your life. So how did you get started performing? Like was your family musical? Like how did you get into, I'm going to make music?
Well, I started learning the piano when I was 5 because my sister was taking lessons and she was a couple years older than me. And our neighborhood piano teacher, who was amazing, she wouldn't take you unless you were second grade or something like that. And so she took me in because I was learning by ear. So that was my first musical instrument, but the piano was always going. My sisters all played instruments. My mom played the piano. And then I just loved everything about like pop rock music, going in. And I wanted to sing. When I heard Pat Benatar for the first time, I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like in 7th grade. So I would always kind of like wedge my way into, hey, let me sing a couple songs with this band or this band, and because there's always high school bands that would be jamming at my small little school. And so that's how I got into it. Started working in a record store and really was versed in so much music because we had, all kinds. And I worked there for 4 years and just was around it all the time.
Yeah, well, especially in those days, too, the record store is where you wanted to be to connect to the local scene or whatever was going on, right? I mean, you had those bands coming in there. Probably, I imagine some of them trying to convince you to convince someone to put their stuff on the shelf, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like that word, I remember back in the day before the internet really became what it is now, bands that I loved, being on their street teams, and them literally mailing me materials and like telling me to go into a record store and like hand stuff out and try to convince them to carry their stuff. Like just those were the days before the internet, So
that was at the street team.
Exactly.
I mean, that's so cool. Like to have like you're part of the street team for like whatever band you love that's like up and coming, and you're putting flyers up and all that. I mean, that's really cool.
I remember the one success I had in that was because most of the times I'm like a teenage kid walking in these record stores. They're like, get out of here. But I remember,
go away, kid, you bother me.
Exactly, yeah. But do you remember the band Super Drag from the 90s? Yeah. Actually, I'm talking to John about coming on because he had a new solo album come out late last year. But yeah, I remember getting Super Dragged, one of their albums, into Night Winds when that was still over. They still existed over in Benton Harbor with their record store over there.
Wow.
But that's the street teams. I mean, that's just wild because you think about it now. Everything's digital. It's all emails. It's all social media. You know, there's not a whole lot of like this in spreading the word. You know,
You're right.
So
yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a saving grace for a lot of bands now, like with that in mind, is that I can't believe vinyl made a comeback.
yeah.
I mean, because like that's the physical, like you go into a store and you buy a band's record or you order it from the record store
Yeah.
or, you know, I mean, you could order it online, but physical vinyl has helped so many bands. And like for Terry and I, that when we sell records, we make more money than what we get paid.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, like that really has taken off in a huge way. And I didn't see it coming. I've always collected albums and I've got a pretty massive collection now that I've been collecting forever. But I saw it go away.
yeah.
The record store went away.
Yeah.
Vinyl went away.
Yeah.
And like now it's all like coming back and it just blows my mind. Like that's cool again.
Yeah.
And
Well,
never
people are craving an experience. You know, they don't want to just listen to it on their device. You know, I think I told this on the last episode, but the Drive-By Truckers had their the anniversary edition of Southern Rock Opera come out, and you know they released this giant vinyl package, and I spent an entire weekend sitting cross-legged on my floor listening to that while I'm reading the liner notes, and like that is an
Man.
experience right there. You
sure,
know?
no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get that. We're huge drive-by.
Oh,
fans.
they did an amazing job with that package. It's I don't know, three or four records and this giant booklet just telling stories and going through it. There's a bunch of B-sides and extras on there, and they actually do some rearranging of the album a little bit, and they talk about why. There's a reason why, and they talk
Sure.
about that in the notes. But you know, all the songs are still there, but it's just a touch different, and they even got into it more when they were on that tour. Supporting that re-release,
Yeah.
talking about kind of the way they've grown and evolved, not just as a band, but as humans since that album came out, and why they felt the need to make some of those changes to it. And even the way they played those songs live, they made those changes. So highly recommend getting that physical copy. It's so good.
Glad
So
to
good.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, because we're big drive-by fans.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I missed that. We play a million shows. and
You,
we're out
you know, you're
doing
kind of busy, so
but I definitely missed that. But I get every like drive-by album that comes out. I think the last one I got was Go-Go Boots.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a little bit behind
Yeah.
on getting some more Truckers
Yeah.
albums. But I have everything up till like Go-Go Boots.
nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what's been out since then that might even be on the shelf here, but they've put out some good stuff for sure the last
Yeah.
couple of years, and and then just some fun revisits of the old, because they've been around for a long time now too, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, long time. We heard My Sweet Annette on Sirius XM.
yeah,
And I'm like, what is this?
yeah,
And,
Yeah.
you know, find out, you know, Jason Isbell.
Yeah.
You know, he's in the band at that time.
Yep.
Because, I mean, you know, I read the liner notes and all that. And then he went on after that, like, to become as big as they are.
one of the best. So I mean, yeah, I caught him up in Kalamazoo at the State last year, and
Okay.
such a good show, Jason Isbell.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
he really, you know, that guy was just out of it. I mean, like, he was like, people like thought, okay, he can't stay in the Truckers because of, you know,
Yeah.
like what he's doing.
because of the issues. Yeah,
And then he really just built himself back up, and he's doing amazing
yeah,
stuff.
it's such a cool story.
Yeah.
Such a cool story.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So, you know, Loudmouth kind of, you know, has its period, and now you're doing so solo stuff. And is it collaboration between the two of you, or like what does the work look like nowadays?
So I had to convince Terry to join my band. so that's what it was.
Okay,
So
all right.
I love Loudmouth. We had our time. Everybody wanted to do different things. It was an amicable split.
Yeah.
And I've always been passionate about, you know, like folk music and like Bob Dylan and John Prine, and you know, I'm wearing a Tom Waits shirt right
Yeah, I
now.
see that, yeah.
Just different kinds of music. I've never wanted to like just pigeonhole myself. Like Loudmouth was a hard rock band,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because like the four guys in the band, that's what we could agree on. to sound like okay, like we all love Sabbath, we all love Zeppelin, we all love Metallica. Like this is something that we can like make our own sound out of.
Sure.
And that was great. And I loved it. But I wanted to do other things. I mean, I'm just a huge Beatles fan, a huge song fan.
Yeah.
And I've been able to explore as an artist exactly what I want to do without the bureaucracy of a band. When you're in a band, you're a member.
Sure.
And you got to appease everybody. So the
It's like a marriage, you know? Yeah.
It is a marriage. And I
Yeah.
was married for a long time.
Yeah.
And so when I started doing my own thing, I wanted to just put out my albums and work a day job. And the day job that I had, I got a job. I got my CDL. And the first job I applied for was this milk company. And I was delivering milk.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I was done early. I could go home and write songs and do everything. Like I got a paycheck every week. It was so nice to like have like a straight job and do that. I got held up on the job and it just like put terror in me. And I'm like, wow. So I need to get out of this and go back to the only thing I know, which is playing music and touring and doing that. That's all I've done my whole life. So I quit the milk job and I talked to Terri Ann and I'm like, listen, we need to go play live together. And, then we can go and tour on our albums. The records, I'd made a couple albums before that I didn't tour on. But I had always stayed in touch with Steve Albini. And when I decided I'm going to play music again live, I called Steve and I made a record called American Loser, started booking shows and building a following slowly and getting out doing what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. So that's from basically 2010 to now, 2025, I've been doing this with Terri. So, and we've been playing out full time, I'd say, since 2013.
Nice.
Like just full time out there playing and doing that. I really loved the job that I had. It was cool, but I was going into some pretty rough neighborhoods and all that, and I got held up, and I was just like, all right.
I mean, one time, and that's enough to shake you.
Done. So then I got back into music, and it's great. I work hard at it, and I love it, and I love being in a band with Terri. I mean, we call it a band. It's just the two of us, and we love what we do. We love each other, and we love playing and performing together, and we've always done that. I had my hiatus when LOUDMOUTH got signed, but we've always played together and done shows together. So now doing it full time has just been, it's a dream.
Definitely.
We don't have fights. We
don't.
That's beautiful.
like you screwed up that song so bad, mister. I'll get you.
Now, if we only had a bulldog that loved our music this time around, because we rescue, we're a big part of a bulldog rescue. We've been doing that for 17 years, but the English bulldog that we have now does not like our music.
No.
And
doesn't go to shows.
She doesn't like a lot of other dogs, so she just we have her at home now.
Yeah.
But if we had that, if we had that perfect bulldog, we'd have the full circle because we could bring her to our shows like we used to do.
We kind of got known for having a bulldog with us.
Hanging out at the shows,
we always bring a bull, and even places that didn't allow dogs
They
would
would
be
let
like,
us.
they give us a wink, like, you can bring Honeybee here.
Yeah,
you
sure.
can bring Daisy Duke. Like, you can bring
Part of the act, you know? Yeah.
So we always had a bulldog with us, so people kind of expected that. So when we got Jilly Bean, we brought her out to Bare Hands in Granger.
Yeah.
And we had our first show with Jilly Bean.
Yeah.
It did not go over well.
Yeah.
A friend of ours that was there kept taking her outside, and we'd bring her back inside. We'd play another song, and she'd just like bark so loud through the song. So we kind of knew like this is not going to work.
I used to have one of those, my golden doodle Alice. She just not a dog that is a fan of. She's a fan of going places, but not a fan of other dogs, and certainly not a fan of chilling out, in those moments. So
Just chill out.
Yeah.
Bulldog Honeybee would sit between Terri and I and face the audience.
Yeah.
And she was just chilling, but hanging out.
Yeah.
And looking at everybody, and people come up to her and talk to her and, say nice things about her.
Yeah.
We're hoping they'd say nice things about her songs.
Mostly you take what you can get,
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, hey, they're coming up.
Yep. So you're based in Crown Point now?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, what? It seems like you have a pretty like long reach. So what's your kind of territory where you're playing out these days?
So I would say we go as far north as Traverse City. We go up there and play a couple breweries up in that area. And then I say as far south as Nashville, Indiana. We have been down to Louisville. We play Eastern Illinois, a little bit of Iowa. And we've gotten out to Ohio a little bit, but mostly like just, Midwest.
Okay. Yeah.
So we play Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and kind of stick in that area mostly.
Yeah.
So we have pretty much, I think it's like 4 hours or less.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
go. So if it's, like 4 hours or less, we'll do it. If it's 4 hours or more, the place would have to get us a hotel.
Yeah.
But we try and stick to where we can go out and play and still go home and then go out again and then go home, as
Sure.
opposed to going out for 2 weeks or a month like a lot of our friends do. We have a nice network of places and have built a following over the years where we can go and play Indianapolis and,
Sure.
and drive home. It's 2 hours to come home. So
Yeah.
not a big deal to drive 2 hours. I love driving. I love traveling.
Yeah.
So, and Terri Ann can relax.
Yeah, and and a lot of times we have all the energy from the show, so we can't go to sleep right away anyway. So might as well drive home.
Just get it home. Yeah.
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 Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Hotspots for us are pretty much like Kalamazoo, Chicagoland, Indianapolis. Like those are places that we pretty much play, and everywhere in between where we have built up a little following of fed heads. And
Yeah.
it's just, a nice niche that we've been able to get into with the friendliness of the craft beer scene.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a huge craft beer fan. Always have been.
Yeah.
We met Larry Bell in like 1995
Oh,
in
nice.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And tried Two Hearted Ale and Oberon at the time.
Yeah.
Well, it was Soul Sun, but
Oh, that's right. That's what it used to be called.
yeah,
Yep.
we fell in love with craft beer.
Yep.
And, I told Terri Ann, why don't we just like play some breweries and just let them know we're all original and see if that kind of works out. And so far, like that's mostly what we do is play craft breweries.
Yeah.
So we love the scene. We love craft beer. And it's been just a really nice creative space for us to do what we do. We have another weird song for you that you haven't heard, but people tend to react if they're going out to a place for a different kind of beer, like it's some fruited sour or something like that. And then we got a song called Snakeskin Boots. Like it just seems like people are more open
Yeah.
to something they haven't heard before. So
Well, it's a creative space. I mean, craft beer is an art form, and it's not like when you're playing out at just a bar where people are just there to get drinks or hanging out. I mean, people are going to breweries in particular for a specific reason. They're there to drink that good kind of beer, not just have a couple of Millers at the local pub or whatever. So
and here's something familiar.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
that kind of thing, like we really don't get people, and I hope people don't listen and start doing this, but we don't get people that shout out Freebird at our shows. We do have people that shout out Slayer once in a while, and I'll rock some Slayer riffs.
Sure, yeah.
So just like, all right, let's do it.
You got
Here
you
we go.
covered, yeah.
And what I like about it too is that a big part of our set and everything is just a lot of stories that Robert tells, so he can, be the artist he is and still have his songs, but still have his personality and tell the stories. And audiences seem to be really, really, they really enjoy the stories, and it just kind of brings them into what the songs are about too. So we're including them.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
audience inclusive. They feel like they're a part of what we're doing as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of like a knowledgeable, like craft beer server. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this has the Motica hop from
Right?
New Zealand, or like this, and you might enjoy it because of that. Like, I love to let people know what I'm talking about, as opposed to having like an inside secret and we're just laughing ourselves. Like, oh,
Yes.
remember that?
Sure, yeah.
No one else knows what's going on. Like, I let everyone know like what's going on.
Well,
And they're
I mean,
receptive. They're receptive.
Yeah,
to it.
and music's supposed to be communal. I was just talking to Justin Wells about this the other day when he was on here. Like the whole point of this thing, or the whole magic of this thing, is communal. It brings people together. It unites people in spite of other differences and whatnot. But it's a place like I have been dipping my toe kind of back into the dating pool. I was married and that didn't work out. And I had a date and we were going through questions and whatnot, kind of like doing the awkward get to know you thing.
Yeah.
And the topic of music came up, and I asked the question, and I knew it was silly as I asked it, but I was like, "Do you like music?" And her response was, "Well, yeah, everyone likes music." I mean, and like because that's it. Like everyone likes music. We may have different musical tastes. We may approach that world differently. I certainly, explore music a lot more than the average person.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
everyone has an attraction to something in the world of music. It's so universal. And that's why those spaces that when you guys are putting on those shows, people are there to have an experience with you and share it's shared humanity,
I love that. I love going into a room and after the show, like everyone feels like they were part of something.
Yeah.
And as opposed to just going in a corner and being quiet and not addressing anybody and just going song after song and not, acknowledging people are here and we're all in the same room. Let's have a shared experience. And if you're here, I'm going to let you know, okay, this song is about this experience or that experience. And this is a funny story about what happened. It really just lends itself to everyone feeling, like, oh, okay, cool. If it's an interesting story, then people usually kind of tune into it.
Yeah.
And I really love to share my experiences with everybody on it, just like a shared level.
Yeah.
Not, I never share anything like, oh, I've done this, I've done that. It's like, this was hilarious. I mean, Lars threw a drink at somebody's face one night. Like it's like just something fun and cool and just, connecting on a human level.
Yeah.
And I do have to tell you, we were in Warren, Michigan playing Falling Down Beer. And this guy and his wife came out to see us. And the guy loved what we did and came up and talked. And we started talking about music. And I asked his wife, so like, what artists do you like? And she goes, I don't like music. and I swear to you, I said, I have to walk away from you. And I did. And I've never turned my back on a human being. But that human being, I walked away from her. And I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to enter that space.
Yeah.
No.
What does it even mean?
I don't like music.
I've
How do
never
you
heard that
react to
before.
that? Yeah,
Well,
there's no
yes.
response.
You
Yeah.
said everyone likes music, and everyone does. I've met the one person on this earth who physically said to me, I don't like music.
Wow.
It was very audible. I'm like,
That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she was just having a rough day, and I don't know, but
that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
that is,
You know?
that is.
Man.
So before we run out of time here, let's talk about the new album, Radioville. So what are we in store for here? Is this a situation where you had you just had some songs at the ready and you figured let's do an album, or is there something that unifies this collection of music?
Well, this album is a little disjointed in the fact that we were making a double album. I've always wanted to make my white album.
Okay,
And
yeah.
something with strange music on it, something with like fun, folky stuff, something with some rockers on it too.
Yeah.
So like an all-encompassing album like the white album. And while we were recording it, Steve Albini passed away. So, we didn't have a full record to put out. So we did have 9 songs recorded. And a lot of it, like the album wasn't finished by any means. But what we're doing with this record is adding the first song I recorded with Steve, putting that on it. We mixed everything that we had for this album. Like all the songs we had, we mixed it with John Sampalo, who has worked at Electrical Audio for years, since 2006 when I recorded with Steve. And then we had Bob Weston master it. And the record, we listened to the test pressing, super happy with the new album. A lot of different kinds of songs. There's blues, there's folk, there's rock. There's like pretty much like an all-out metal tune
Nice.
on it. So the record is a shared experience of all the music that I love. And I wasn't going to have anyone else put their hands on any of the songs that Steve recorded.
Sure.
So everything that was recorded is as is. And we thought about adding bass to this song or adding this to the song, but it would have to be recorded by somebody else.
Yeah.
So it is like the first versions of all the tunes that are on there. Like, here it is.
Yeah.
So, and it's a complete record. It's not like a demo.
Yeah.
I mean, we were recording for the album, but it was going to be bookended with some other things in there and some more experimental music and a double record. It was going to be a double album.
Yeah.
So it's a single album and we're proud of it. It's called Radioville. There's this town in Pulaski County, Indiana. Nothing spectacular about it other than 4 trailers, a dilapidated bowling alley, and a green sign that says Radioville. And I mean, it's like, this is like the coolest name of a town, and there's nothing in this town.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to make this place cool because it's such a cool thing. And I've driven by it for years.
Yeah.
Years and years. It's on 421 if you're heading like, south from Route 30. So I share the experience of what it's like driving to Radioville.
Yeah.
So there's a giant silo painted like a Miller High Life can. And I've had like dozens of people go by it now and take pictures and send it to me. So you get that. And then there's this little town called Saint Pierre that's like famously haunted. This woman gets in your car and she'll drive with you for a while. Like you pick her up on the side of the road, and all these farmers out there like talk about this like haunted little Saint Pierre. And then you get to Radioville, where there's an orb on a windowsill. It's a jukebox to the stars. They can hear your songs on Mars from Radioville. So that's where it starts, and kind of a magical little thing.
So, I mean, maybe I don't know how big this town is. Assuming there's a city council or a mayor or something of Radioville, have they been made aware that there's an album named after their little municipality?
Only a woman that when we did the photo shoot, like we parked in her driveway. Her driveway was very long.
Yeah.
Going to her trailer, and we parked there. And she came home, and I walked up to her truck and I said, "Hey, is it cool if we park here? We're making an album called Radio." And she goes, "I don't give a F what you do." That was it.
Okay.
So she's the mayor.
All right.
And, or whatever she is, the public notary.
Sure, yeah.
She
Maybe
gave
all
us,
of the above,
She gave us her blessing.
Yeah.
She may be the sheriff.
that could be. Well, I think that earns you like the key to the village or whatever,
Right.
At some point, I think there needs to be a Radioville ceremony of some sort to honor this. So.
I felt deputized.
Yeah.
I should get a badge.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe you're the mayor now. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. Well, at least they don't shoot the deputy. So.
Just the sheriff.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you so you obviously because of wanting to honor Steve and where you were with this work, you didn't get to the double album. Do you foresee at some point going back to that concept of a project and doing your white album with the double album with the weird songs and everything else? Or?
It's going to have to evolve, and it's something that has to be natural for me. So I've always wanted to make a double album, but now I got to get comfortable with recording with somebody else.
Sure.
So the relationship I had with Steve was just really pure. Everything was on a mutual respect for each other. And he was just like a truly magical guy to go in the studio and work with, because he let you be you.
Yeah.
And whatever you're going to do, he's going to make sure that it is acoustically sound. I mean, like, he was a true engineer of sound.
Yeah.
And he made it so comfortable to go in the studio and just, all right, everything's set for you. We're rolling. Be you.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of, well, at least for my own experience, people that I've worked with have a vision for you. Steve's vision wasn't like what he thought you should sound like. It's like what you sound like, and I'll capture it in the most pure analog form.
Let me facilitate your vision, right? Yeah.
So it was something where like I really developed trust with Steve, and I got to find out, because Steve's hilarious guy. Brilliant guy, stoic, definitely stoic guy. After I found out that he liked me, then it became even more special for me, because I didn't know. I honestly didn't know if the guy liked me. I knew I liked recording with him, because, when I listen back, I'm like, all right, I'm happy with this album. I'm happy with this. But when I found out Steve enjoyed recording with me and said nice things about me. He interviewed me for NTS Radio, Nuts to Soup Radio out of the UK. They had a series where Steve Albini records and interviews his I can't believe I'm saying it, but 4 of his favorite artists. And I was one of them.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't believe it. And the interview's out there, and it's like, it's absolutely, we're shipping records to England. It was crazy for me to know that. So he interviewed me in 2023 for Nuts to Soup Radio. And I got to find out from his voice to me, face to face, what he felt about me.
Yeah.
And that created for me, like, okay, like this is why this has been working for me for so long. He does like me. He does enjoy my music. He does enjoy what we do. He thought playing the craft breweries and picking our battle, he thought like, and he said this, not me, but he thought like we're the most like punk rock act working out there. He's like, nobody figured out how to make a living at this and do this. And like, you went and picked a thing that you love and you're making it work. He goes like, that's punk rock. You don't have a label. You don't have a booking agent. Don't have a publicist. Yet we're out there doing this, 100 and, plus shows a year. I didn't know he valued that, respected that, and looked at us like, these guys are like punk rock.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like punk rock.
Yeah.
I'm not a big punk rock guy. I mean, I like the Pixies and the Germs and like, I mean, all it, Sex Pistols, Ramones.
But it's an attitude. It's not just a form of music. It's a way of life. And, obviously you're encompassing that. So.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that till he said
either.
it. So I didn't know at all.
I mean, talk about a feather in the cap right there. That's what you need. I mean, the Metallica thing is nice. But honestly, I think that's probably even better. So
it blew my mind with him, and that's why it was really difficult to to move on and to think about recording another record again. So I'm actually thinking about the studio here, Niles, do a song there. I've recorded a song with John Sampalo at Electrical Audio, and that went well. So I'm just putting the feelers out there for where I feel comfortable and where I want to record and who I want to record with, because I'm pretty much like, like the old man who goes to his same restaurant for soup.
Sure.
I mean, like,
Sit
I
at
go,
the same booth.
I go to Les Brothers and I get the lemon rice soup and that's it. Like, I mean, I've been with Terri for 35 years. I mean, I've had the same friends since I was, like a kid.
Yeah.
I like that familiarity and that trust. So I'm like looking for like my guy.
Yeah.
Or girl.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now. So like, I don't know if I'll ever make another record again. I know that it has to feel right for me to do it.
Yeah.
I don't make set lists. I don't plan a lot of things other than playing shows and getting out there and playing our music. But it'd be something that has to evolve naturally like it did with Steve.
Yeah.
So if that happens, if I find my person, then I will make a double album because I've always wanted to. But right now, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in the meantime, the album is Radioville, coming out on June 20th. And I'll have to check my calendar. I'm going to have to shoot on down to that release party. Is it on the 20th?
It's on the 20th
Nice.
at Burnham Brewing.
Burnham Brewing. I do love Burnham. It's been a couple years since I've been there, actually, too. So I'm due.
You are due.
You're due, Justin.
Yeah.
And the new space is great. They have like their own backroom event space.
Oh, nice.
You
Okay.
need food in the front and have some beers and then come back to the event space and listen to the music and hang out. And it's really Steve Murray from Burnham is like doing everything. Punk, metal, folk. I mean, like everything in between.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's original.
Sure.
So I just have a really great respect for that. And that's why I love playing Burnham and want to release the album at Burnham.
Yeah. Yep. Well, cool. Terri Ann, Robert, are we good? We get it all, you think?
I think we got it all.
I think we did.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone check out, we'll have the links to the website and all that fun stuff in the show notes. So check out Robert and Terry's stuff and check out the new album when it comes out in June. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Justin.
Yeah. You have been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops from Red Chuck Productions. Keep up on new episodes of this show, our live events, and various creations and other happenings over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us on social media at Red Chuck Productions. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out over at herojuniormusic.com. That is Hero, Hero, Junior, JR, music.com. A big shout out to Paul Clemson and Theory One Productions for handling sound duties and so much more. Check out their magic over at theory1productions.com. And a big thank you to Earthworks Audio for outfitting the Red Chuck studio. See their microphones and their other products over at earthworksaudio.com. Be sure to support all of our guests by visiting their websites, social media, clicking that subscribe button, seeing them live, and checking out their merch stores. Give musicians and artists your money. We'll be back with the next episode. Until then, thank you for your time. Here's to life.